Today we are going to replace this worn out motorcycle seat cover and also install a gel pad while we're in there. It looks like we might have to add a little extra foam in there as well since it's missing some. This particular seat has a metal base that uses sharp barbs all along the perimeter to pierce the cover material and hold it in place. These barbs can get rusty and snap off if you're not careful, but what you want to do is use a flathead screwdriver to pry them up just enough to be able to pull the old seat cover off of them. Take your time and be careful not to damage those barbs. You really don't need to pry them up very high, just enough so that they don't pinch the cover material. Removing the old seat cover reveals that the original seat has been modified at some point, most likely to reduce the seat height a little bit. You can see where the stock foam was cut away and a different type of foam was glued in to create a new profile. This more than likely means our new seat cover isn't going to be a very tight fit unless we try to restore the stock foam profile. Here I'm doing a little cleanup and repositioning of the metal barbs to make sure that the installation goes smoothly. This is the gel pad that I'm going to be installing. I'm not sure what to expect from this pad, but it seems like it's worth a try. I'm checking the thickness of the pad against this box cutter blade so I can use it as a guide to cut a hole for the pad in the seat later. The material is very sticky and can be easily cut with scissors. The pad is a little too big to fit on the seat, so you just have to trim some material away. I just eyeballed a shape that looked like it would fit within the top of the seat and not make me have to cut off too much gel. This stuff is expensive and I really don't want to waste any if I can help it. After tracing the new gel shape on the seat with a marker, I use a box cutter to carve and subdivide the area of the cutout into lots of tiny squares. It's easier to create a more accurate surface when you cut a bunch of little squares as opposed to one large shape. I then use a blade to cut each of the squares out to the depth of the gel pad. I test the gel pad to see how well it fits, and it's a little on the high side, so I go back to level the foam some more. In retrospect, this is really kind of overkill for the application, but at least it's pretty flush now. I also cut the foam a little large for the gel, so I'll have to patch that back up later. I'm using this 3M Super 77 spray adhesive to hold all the foam together. It doesn't harm the foam at all, but it's not a good idea to spray any on the gel. It doesn't help it to stick any better, and it almost looks like it's damaging the surface of the gel a little bit. Once the gel is in place, I'm putting this top layer of foam over everything to raise the seat height up a little bit. I figure it probably helps to smooth out the profile a little bit too, and maybe even protect the gel. I hope I'm not canceling out the effects of the gel by doing this, but I figure it's only ½ inch thick, so it shouldn't make too big of a difference. I noticed that the rubber trim was coming off of the bottom of the seat pan. There was quite a bit of rust forming, and that's what popped it loose. I just peeled off the rubber and sanded down the rust, and then sprayed it with some black rust converting paint. After the paint dried, I sprayed some more 3M Super 77 adhesive into a cup and used a Q-tip to apply the glue along the perimeter of the pan and stuck the rubber trim back on. The instructions that came with the new seat cover recommend using a piece of plastic as a vapor barrier and to help the cover slide over the seat better when you go to pull it tight. I used a trash bag that I cut to fit. It's important to align the seat cover as evenly as you can and then tension and attach the cover in the front and the back. Stretch it as tight as you can, and if it's aligned well, start working on the sides, moving from the front towards the back. You want to pull it as tight as you can and then pierce the vinyl with the metal barbs on the bottom of the seat pan. If your barbs are a little dull, you can use a small flathead screwdriver to help them pierce the vinyl. Once you attach all the barbs to the seat cover, it's time to see how well you did. I got pretty lucky here and the cover fits perfectly. The seat hasn't looked this good since the bike rolled off the showroom floor. Hopefully, I won't have to install another seat cover on this bike for a very long time. But if I do, just remember, it gets easier every time.